third spot now, your points leader with a strong performance here in Kansas. James Busher, David Starr rounding out our top 5. We knew that memories would be made today. Some are good, some are bad. Be the biggest racing fan you can be with Verizon Championship Racing at the track and on your phone. From nationwide and IndyCar driver meet and greets to exclusive peeks inside the Penske garage, right on your VCast phone for your hard card to racing nirvana. Only from the network with the most 3G coverage, Verizon. Matt Crafton in the 88 coming back out on the racetrack. They've done a lot of work to that race truck to get it at least to this point. We'll see how it handles once he gets out on the track.
Looks like a mess.
Matt's being shown in the 28th position right now, 21 laps down.
He wants every point he can get, though, huh, Phil? They're back on the track just trying to gather up some points.
Battle for the 4th spot. James Busher in that 31, giving it up to the 33 of Ron Hornaday. I shouldn't say giving it up. Ron Hornaday took it from James Busher. That Hornaday's truck is really on a mission to get back up front.
17 laps ago, Ron Hornaday restarted in the 20th position, and now he's up to the 4th spot.
James is having a big weekend, isn't he? Real competitive the other night in Richmond.
Good top 15 finish.
Heck yeah, and then he comes out here, runs right up front again.
Adam Alexander, what are they saying in the 33 pits?
Not a lot. And here's the reason why. Hornaday came on the radio and pretty much told everybody, let me get this worked out. And they've been pretty quiet. Let the big boy go to work, and he's taken care of business. As you guys pointed out, restarting outside the top 20, and he has rallied in just over 20 laps to a position inside the top 5, and he is the fastest truck on track.
Johnny Sauter has a 9/10 of a lead over Brian Eichler. Timothy Peters running in the 3rd spot, 2.377 seconds back. Then Hornaday in 4th, Busher in 5th.
It's a good 3-way battle right here. Jason White and that Gunbroker Dodge right now has a 10th spot. That's Austin Dillon. Actually, Austin Dillon was running right behind Jason White. Kenny Schrader got back by Austin Dillon to take over the 11th position.
Looks like Schrader's a little bit faster than these two guys. He's working that bottom of the racetrack. I noticed him getting down on the inside a couple times of Jason. He hadn't quite been able to close the deal yet.
Truck really turned good, it looked like that time.
It certainly does, and Jason's got a good handling truck. He gets down in the corners. He doesn't really slow down a whole lot. Just having a little bit of trouble keeping Schrader at bay here as Schrader starts to look on the outside. And that's the great thing. That's what drivers love about this track, Phil. They know they can run up high, they can run down low. There's a lot of options. And Schrader finally got a run on the outside of Jason, and I bet he can pull this pass off.
But the nice thing is Jason knew he was there. Jason could have easily slid up the hill, taken that spot away on the outside from Kenny Schrader, but he let him go. He knew he was there. He gave him room, and Kenny makes the pass and moves up into the top 10.
Austin Dillon in the number 3.
Saw his grandpa, Richard Childress, down in the garage area earlier today.
Was talking to Will Lynn, that's worked with RCR for years and years and years, and I asked him if Mike Dillon was coming as we see Austin Dillon move to the outside of Jason White, and he said no, RC was going to represent the family here.
Johnny Benson, former champion in the series, currently in the 13th spot as he tries to take 12th away from Jason White.
Johnny's also going to drive this truck for Billy Ballou at Dover in a few weeks. Nelson Piquet Jr. is going to jump in this truck and run a couple races here coming up in the next couple months.
Timothy Peters again coming into this race as our point leader, running in the 3rd spot. A very strong performance by him up to this point, right?
Possibly some problems, though, Rick. You got to keep your eye on the gauges when you're a driver. He came on the radio and told his crew chief, Jeff Hensley, moments ago, the voltmeter is starting to drop. They're down to about 9 volts on the battery. So Jeff Hensley said, turn all of your blowers off except for the right front. So he dropped his bead blowers off of the other 3 tires and also turned off the rear end cooler. So they are very concerned as to whether or not they'll have enough battery power throughout the rest of this race. They're keeping an eye on it as we go.
And Ray, remember, this is one of the longest races we run, 250 miles. We also run 250 miles at Daytona and at Talladega, so this is a long race for these guys.
And I think that's why you've seen some of the strategy you've seen earlier in the day, Phil, as we watch guys come to pit road and work on their trucks early in the going, knowing they had a long time to make it all up. Check out our 16th place running truck. That's Brett Butler. We saw him training dogs when we started the show today.
Doing a nice job there.
That's the best run that truck's had. He's running it right outside the top 15. And I talked to Brett this morning. He said, you know, Michael, I don't really understand where all my speed is. Sort of like Jason White. He said, I run pretty close to wide open, but yet I'm not where I need to be. And as a young kid like Brett is, it's frustrating trying to get your legs under you, understand where the speeds are, but it's good to see a good solid run for him in that team.
We see Schrader trying to make the move on Carmichael for the 9th position, as well as the 81 of David Starr.
It looks like Kenny Schrader's truck's really coming around right now. That's one thing when you get somebody with the experience that a Kenny Schrader has. He knows what that truck needs to feel like to be able to get to the end of the race. He's worked on this truck. They made early pit stops. Now he's picking them off one by one.
You know, I talked to him this morning. He said he was going to be really patient, take his time today, and work his way toward the front. He said when Kevin Harvick called him and asked him about driving the truck in Kansas, he thought Harvick said, will you drive my truck to Kansas? He thought he wanted to be the hauler driver, and Schrader's like, well, I'm really not doing a whole lot. If you need me to, Kevin, I'll drive it out there for you. But Kevin said, no, you're going to drive my truck, and Schrader was honored to get a chance to get in such a great piece of equipment, and I know he wants to run all the laps and show Kevin that it was a great decision by Kevin to have him in it.
Adam.
And Michael, this team very excited that EasyGo came on at the 11th hour to make sure they had sponsorship this weekend, and their hope it is a relationship that they can partner up EasyGo and Ken Schrader for some of the other standalones as this season continues. You know, Kenny Schrader owns a number of short tracks and races at short tracks all around the country, and we made his first practice laps here yesterday. He said, you know, this truck's a little bit faster than the car I drive at Peevely, referring to one of his short tracks. He's had a lot of fun this weekend, and I think there's been quite an adjustment period getting in a piece of equipment that is as competitive as this one is. You see Austin Dillon going to the outside, but so far, Schrader managing the race very nicely, and I think he could get hired again by the boss.
Isn't that fun, though, Phil? You got a kid, 19, 20 years old, racing against a guy that's been around, seen a little bit of everything in his career, 54 years old, and yet they're just battling it out side by side, right behind the greatest motorcycle racer ever.
Yeah. Hey, Kenny Schrader has 930 previous NASCAR starts, and he had to go to the rookie meeting here.
Do you remember when A.J. Foyt had to go to the rookie meeting in Darlington back in the 80s when he showed up there for one of his first races?
Well, if you remember, back a couple years ago, Martin Martin was eligible for the Rookie of the Year award in the Camping World Truck Series when he was running it. He didn't apply for it, by the way. Johnny Sauter continuing to lead, almost a 2-second lead over Brian Eichler, running second. Timothy Peters, Ron Hornaday, and James Busher are your top 5. Closing in on the halfway point from Kansas. Next Saturday, Speed presents the story of the King, Richard Petty. See how the sport's all-time winningest driver became a legend. Don't miss the NASCAR Hall of Fame biography of Richard Petty next Saturday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, only on Speed.
I tell you, these biographies have been terrific. Both Frances we've already seen. You see some clouds back there off the.
I would use the word ominous with those.
Junior Johnson, I watched this weekend, was very, very good. Very well done. Really enjoy that. Can't wait to watch the Kings.
Johnny Sauter still out front of the field. He has a 2.5-second lead over Brian Eichler. Timothy Peters, Ron Hornaday, James Busher, your top 5. Eric Almirola, Mike Skinner, Austin Dillon, Ken Schrader, and Ricky Carmichael, your top 10.
You know, green flag pit stops aren't that far away here. Most of the field pitted back on lap number 28, and Ron Hornaday now. Remember, he came in on lap number 42, so he has about 14 more laps cushioned than most of the field does. So he's really in a great position right now. But again, we know these guys can go 55, 60 laps. We had a few caution laps that may extend that a little bit, but we have to be probably within 10 laps of green flag pit stops.
Adam, what do you think? Are we in that number?
Phil mentioned Ron Hornaday Jr. and the fact that he has a little bit more time than the other drivers. I just talked to his crew chief, Doug George, who said, I hope it stays green, to which I replied, I bet you do, because other drivers like Johnny Sauter, who is leading, would have to come in sometime around lap 91 in the next 10 laps. And now problems for the 17, Ray.
Yeah, his battery has gone completely dead. He's coasting in right now. Engine's not even running. On this Strutmasters Toyota, Jeff Hensley said, if we have to pit under green, we won't change the battery, but that plan just got changed right now. As Timothy's on his way here, they're going to do a complete battery change here and see if that'll make the difference. Also change tires on this thing. They're about 6 laps from having to pit under green, but here he comes. The work will get underway on the point leader right now.
And oh, by the way, that will ease Ron Hornaday a little bit closer to the